cards (PVCs), while Nigerians should freely choose the best candidates and vote credible and righteous leaders. In a statement issued by Secretary General of the Council, Professor Ishaq Oluyede, the NSCIA also urged the Muslim Ummah to establish private universities while affirming support for the Supreme Court's position on rights of Muslim women to wear the hijab, frowning at promoters of hatred and disunity in the polity. The council members urged governments at all levels to punish perpetrators of violence, appreciating recent successes recorded by the NDLEA in fighting drug abuse. They appealed to parents to train their children in the way of righteousness, while also commiserating with families of victims of recent accidents in Shagamu, Ogun State. Youths in Kebbi State have pledged support for the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu and other APC candidates. This came to the fore at an advocacy for youths to collect their permanent voters' cards.
I've seen a lot of response, good testimony coming from the leaders of different groups in declaring for their 100% support and loyalty to APC and giving their commitment that they are going to work 100%.
People's Democratic Party in Kebbi Central Senatorial District has flagged off its campaign. The party assured all candidates in the state of block votes during the 2023 general elections.
We have given them effective representation, and they have seen that effective representation by way of getting projects all over the senatorial district. Roads have been built, schools have been built or renovated, hospitals have been built, town halls have been built, water has been supplied. This is what we call effective representation.
That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kieran after this break. Do stay with us.
Nigeria, African beauty on the Gulf of Guinea, blessed with natural landmarks and wildlife reserves. Nigeria, largest economy in Africa. Nigeria, famous accomplishment in entertainment and sports. Nigeria, resourced with globally respected human capital. Our uniqueness lies in our tenacity, our acumen, a testament of success. At NTA, we are forever proud to be the showcase channel of this positive energy and the reflection of the good in our nation. The capacity to tell our nation's story would not have been possible without the support and patronage of the three arms of government: ministries, departments, agencies, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties, and of course you, our esteemed viewers. As we wish you a prosperous new year, let's get set to make 2023 even greater together.
People this day. The people they shout. We walk all our country people they talk with one voice. Them say that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu them want as president of Nigeria for this president election.
Asiwaju Bola Tinubu na the man wey we all know and see all the good work in they do for the country, especially when in the governor of Lagos State.
Now when God use turn Lagos to the best state for Nigeria.
Today, many people all over Nigeria they like to go Lagos, go settle down for business and better life.
Because of the good work when Bola Tinubu do.
People of Nigeria, as Asiwaju do for Lagos, now so him ready to do am for the whole country.
Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party wey get broom. It has great taste.
Is there ahead?
Yummy, yummy, full of nourishment.
Ovaltine 3-in-1. Smart choice for smart kids.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
The security situation in Nigeria has been reasonably stable in spite of activities of unpatriotic elements engaged in various criminal activities around the country. Daily situation reports coming in from states. 2 months ago, it has shown relative peace on many of our highways, such as Abuja, Kaduna Birnin Gwari, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria, bright and early January the 3rd. So let's take a look at trending stories on business news. And head of International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, says the new year to be tougher than it was last year, 2022. And the US and EU and China are experiencing slow growth. So let's join Comfort Model for the business news.
Head of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, says for much of the global economy, 2023 is going to be a tough year as the main engines of global growth, the United States, Europe and China, will experience weakening activity. In October, the IMF cut its outlook for global economic growth in 2023, reflecting the continuing drag from the war in Ukraine, as well as inflation pressures and a high interest rate engineered by central banks like the US Federal Reserve, aimed at bringing those price pressures to heel. Since then, China has scrapped its zero-COVID policy and embarked on a chaotic reopening of its economy. Economic watchers say Georgieva's comment suggests another cut to both China and global growth outlooks may be in the offing later this month, when the IMF typically unveils updated forecasts during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The Nigerian stock market was closed this Monday for the holiday. A total of 5,937 units of exchange-traded products valued at 21.7 million naira were traded in the week in 18 deals, as well as 35,327 units of federal government bonds valued at 35.7 million naira in 21 deals. 25 equities appreciated in the week, while 33 equities depreciated, and 98 equities remained unchanged. Markets in the US, Britain, Ireland, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong and Australia were equally closed for the holiday. Many European stock markets are, however, opened and edged higher with business news. Comfort Amodu.
Thank you, Comfort. And next on the program is a review of today's dailies newspaper review.
All right, I said it's always a pleasure to introduce the man that refuses to grow old, Chukwudi Okole Uwaja. Chooks the boy. Well, it's not a leap year, is it? No.
No, 2023. You can divide it by 4.
No, you can't.
I didn't know about refusing to grow old, and nature would always take you down, whether you like it or not. I'm the one welcoming you.
My pleasure.
You are making me too bold. Yeah, I'm not welcoming you
to her direction. I'm just welcoming you to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
You know, we do.
He doesn't believe in New Year.
No, we do things differently.
Well, we better ask him why he doesn't.
We have
after the program.
We have 2 papers this morning to review.
Yes.
Isn't that?
Yes.
And perhaps more from other papers that will come from you. But for now, let's go to the Nation newspaper. Let's begin with the Nation newspaper. Okay, the Nation, above the name flag of the paper. Bandit gunned down in Katsina police shootout. That's on page 2. Nigeria raises concern over rising COVID-19 cases in China. It's on page 25. 4 killed in gunmen attack on Ohakim's convoy. It's on page 2. Now below the name flag. Letter. Obasanjo is jealous, frustrated, says presidency. Wike, ex-president's endorsement of Obi, a stain on Atiku. Backing for LP presidential candidate inconsequential, according to chieftain of APC in Ondo State. All right, now below the photo story, Tinubu insists petrol subsidy must go. Details on page 4. Funeral rights for Pele begins. That's on page 31. Pope Benedict lies in state. All right. 1/3 of the world may slip into recession this year. IMF warns. You can get that on page 5. Perpetrators of attack. That's at the bottom of the nation. Perpetrators of attack on my convoy will be prosecuted, says Tambua. All right, Claire.
Okay, I also have the Punch, and let's punch away. Anti-Buhari letter, presidency lambasts. Obasanjo says ex-president government corrupt. Details of that in page 2. It comes with a number of riders there. But that's the lead story on the front page of the Punch. Above the nameplate, external reserves fell in 2022 by 3.4 billion naira. That's reports. Of course, you'll see the picture of the CBN governor there, Godwin Emefiele. Mobile subscriptions rise by 23 million, now 218 million. Details of that on page 17. Power generation crashes by 990 megawatts. Gencos lose 1.8 trillion naira. And National Assembly budgets 850 million naira for failed constitution amendment. Details of that on page 12. Down the foot of the paper, you find Abuja DPO transferred as police redeploy corps, and presidential brigade soldier fires Abuja motorcyclist, kills passenger. Details of that you can find on page 4. And the picture stories I'd like to read out. Fun seekers at the National Children Park and Zoo in Abuja, and Ebute Amusement Center in Lagos, the Palms, Sangota in Ogun State, and that was during the New Year holidays. And you see the children riding away there on Monday. All right, that's the outlook of the Punch. Gentlemen, I think Chukwudi, which would you like? High or low?
I have a feeling we have skated around politics, because politicians will always be politicians.
And because it's the season.
It's the season, and let them have their field day. But when language begins to get intemperate, you and I have a duty to step in.
Exactly.
Because we are social engineers of sorts. That's what I keep telling journalists. You don't realize the extent of your power. you have awesome powers. So we have to talk about the presidency returning the salvos. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo would seem to have delivered when he purportedly endorsed LP presidential candidate Peter Obi. Now, I'm not going to go into the tackles being traded and all that. I would ask a question, really. Is it not necessary for us to learn some thinking from United States presidents, for instance? When they leave office, you hardly find a president trading tackles with the incumbent. They hardly do that. Not that they don't have reason to. I mean, Trump, if you ask me, is the phenomenon that has happened on the American soil the way nobody has ever considered that God's own country, in quotes, would ever experience. But still, that is even Obama, whom he was not quite friendly to, doesn't go out in the public to criticize him. So maybe caution should come in, whatever we think about him.
We are operating according to our level of development in terms of democratic practice, norms and values, and beliefs of those who practice it, especially the key, stakeholders. But that's it. Even in America, like I pointed out Trump, for instance, he changed the course of history, the dynamics of American politics, right? So things he never thought could happen in the U.S. polity, they're taking place at the moment, right? So you can't divorce an ex-president from present president. But the point is, as you said, politicians will always be politicians, so let's keep away from them. I think it's better to keep away from them. An analyst will tell you, yes, former President Olusegun Obasanjo would seem to have endorsed Obi. Then some other person will tell you, how many votes would that get, Obi? That is contestable. So let's leave them to handle their matter, because these are our elders. I'm concerned. I want you to look at the killings in the southeast. Or Hakim's convoy was attacked. It's not yesterday.
It's actually the next one.
And 4 killed. That's 4 policemen killed. Now, not just the killing, his own killing. There's another killing before that, right, in the south of Nigeria. In Obusi, the PG of Obusi, somebody Okoli was also murdered about 48 hours ago. So what is going on? Is it the unknown gunman, or is it lack of security? Recall yesterday we talked about Governor Soludo's assertion that he has taken care of violence in Anambra. I was questioning the veracity of that statement, and today you can see that more killings are still taking place.
First of all, I advise news writers not to talk to us about unknown gunmen, because you're by implication telling the police that these people cannot be found, whether they are unknown gunmen or ungunmen men or whatever they are called. They are culprits. I remember I have 3 lessons I wrote down here that we need to draw from this attack. The first one is, if the gunmen can daringly attack well-guarded officials, the message being put out is one that spells out impunity. That's what it is. That's what it does. Whatever state of readiness the police have is being challenged to even get better, because there's a job to do. These hoodlums don't mean any good. It's an whirlwind that blows no one any good. Second lesson, if these acts could happen less than 2 months to the general election, imagine what could happen just a month to the election. What is the purpose of these attacks? Then third lesson, citizen vigilance and readiness to cooperate with the police so that we thwart some of these things. I remember, may his soul rest in peace, when Mike Wanchukwu on Radio Rivers, FM stereo, I'm a lover, not the spirit. If they are among us, they laugh and you remember? I remember. Where are those jingles? They disappeared. Talk for another day. So we also have a stake in the matter. You can't tell me that people drop from the blues and start opening fire on humanity around them, and nobody knows how they also live like spirits. That's not true. So we are hiding a few things that are eventually going to be detrimental to our own well-being.
Exactly. And I will ask you again. I will ask you again on issue of our behavior, the behavior of our politicians. Please, must one move on convoy to be able to get to his destination. Because the attraction of a convoy, you need to be in the southeast and see a convoy really. It's about between 6 and 10 cars, if not more, in a stretch with speed and siren. So this is an attraction. I don't know why that's done. Hakim was governor of Imo State over how many years? 10 years ago, more, or 15 years ago. So why is he using? I'm done being an ordinary Nigerian. I'm not being an ordinary Nigerian here talking as to why convoy. If I was attacked in Anambra State, still on convoy. Well, from what we heard, it was not meant for him in the first place. Perhaps those people were doing other operations, and when they had siren, they thought perhaps the police, they were coming for them, and they attacked.
What you're saying is that we need to become a little more circumspect about announcing your presence, your presence in the community. Remember that there was this policeman in Lagos then, Sunday Deusi. That man, they said the way he made himself a top cop was that he would go out only himself at night. And that was how he got to know where the robbers are. Sometimes you don't attract attention to yourself so much if you want to be effective at what you do. You know, it might not be a very good analogy, but I'm trying to make a point.
Okay, we have just few minutes to go. Well, just added to the list of killings. I'm sure you both must have heard of the one that happened on Sunday as well by the couple. Yes. The banker and his wife and son. That's in the Bara area, I think in Abuja area. Was burnt beyond recognition. And the son was said to have been drowned, and the relative that came to visit them, after the crossover night was also abducted. It was quite sad. Now we also have another one, presidential brigade soldier firing Abuja motorcyclist, and this happened somewhere along Aguri Silveri in Sokoro. Details of that is still sketchy according to this paper, but there's still one I'd like you to look at again just before we round up is the National Assembly budgeting 850 million naira for failed constitution amendment. Well, according to this paper, after initial hiccups in getting the Ninth Assembly to get the constitution amendment through, this paper is reporting that 850 million naira again has been injected into the 2023 budget.
Oh, well, it will all come under the omnibus, label of to make an omelette. You have to break a few eggs. Procedural flaws or not, the point is that destination has been identified, and you do all you can to make sure you get there. What we ask you to do is to try to be as cost effective as you can be. So is it that you could have prevented, this kind of expenditure if we had been more thorough? I'm not saying they have not been thorough. We're asking questions so that tomorrow will be better than today and yesterday.
Okay, finally, yesterday was a public holiday, and I thought that one of the thought that the highways should be free flow of traffic. Alas, the city center, of course, you find here in Abuja, traffic almost prevented me from getting to my destination. You know why? Families, children, all going to the park to have fun, to celebrate the new year. The Nigerian here will not admit, Anyway, I won't allow this student to intimidate me, so I'll just call for a break. Chukwudi, we thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Kirian, one of the signs of great wisdom is knowing when to appear foolish. We are not talking.
All right, let's go for a short break.
As we close a successful year 2022 and prepare for the start of a better year 2023, the Nigeria Television Authority, NTA, wishes to appreciate and share the love with all who gave us a year to remember for good. The three arms of government, ministries, departments and agencies, corporate bodies and advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups and political parties. Most importantly, you, our esteemed viewer. We say thank you. Together, We made 2022 great. Let's make 2023 greater. Once again, we say thank you, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year from all of us at the NTA. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
It's an anthem for Nigeria. Oh, better days are coming. Better days that gives us hope and strength. Determined to keep this hope alive, bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
It's a new dawn in Nigeria. Renewed hope beckons on our people. The silver lining dots the skies. The firmament portents a bright future as the people of Nigeria move to vote a man whom they have come to trust for the realization of their aspirations for a better Nigeria. That man is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He has been tested. He can be trusted. Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as President of Nigeria 2023. Vote Kashim Shettima as Vice President. Vote APC. Surely with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the smiles are returning. We are close to home.
Bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring an impeccable personality with purposeful leadership, Alhaji Mohammed Mitakobi, the Executive National President of Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria.
In 774 local governments will be able to put all our structures in everywhere. I'll be able to bring the Retians members together, reconcile them to come and work for the progress of the association.
Welcome to a world of fun and excitement as we also present an assemblage of professionals in the media space. Some compelling NTA programs, current trends in the fashion world, ICT, sports, entertainment, and lots more. Get a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Crude oil thefts, illegal refining of petroleum products, vandalism of pipelines, sea piracy, kidnapping for ransom, militancy, and environmental degradation are amongst the potent threats in the south-south zone of Nigeria. Accordingly, Operation Delta Safe is being conducted in the south-south and parts of the southeast geographical zone to protect the nation's oil and gas industries, which is the mainstay of Nigeria's economy.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
You know, the item a bit weak.
Now, to begin our discussion on the subject matter, let's watch and of course view some Nigerians' comments on their expectations from the security sector come, well, in 2023, because we're in 2023. All right, let's take that report.
We have men and this force that can do this job, that can secure this country. And I know if they are properly motivated by way of good payments, better working conditions, and gathering right intelligence and making use of it, there will be better security and getting the youths employed, because it's just an idle mind, and people who are in need for money or because of one thing or the other that gets into these activities.
Like banditry and kidnapping was much last year, and I think I know one person they kidnapped, so it really got to me. In fact, it changed my mentality about everything. I now got to know that there's a lot to be done, especially to considering the security of the country.
What we witness, this kidnapping all over the place in the nation, there's no exception in any way. Even in villages, they are kidnapping people. That will stop, so that Nigerians will go free without being harassed or be kidnapped and then begin to demand for money and sometimes killed or slaughtered even after the money has been given. That is not good nation. We must leave that one.
They should just make sure everybody in your house and wherever you find yourself, you're just confident and comfortable that you can go out, get what you want, and come back safely without anybody, to the fear of unknown gunmen.
In terrorism, in banditry, in kidnapping, farmer-herder clashes, in our country things are coming down. And also generally, there is increasing activity by the government of Nigeria to stabilize the entire West African region.
The secure and stable Nigeria is indispensable for overall peace and prosperity of not only the country but Africa, with huge implications for global peace and stability.
All right, that compilation was by our correspondent, and we'd like to thank you, Joseph, for putting that together for us. Again, to remind you, our topic for discussion this morning is your expectation from the security agencies or security sector this year. And I would have just said, well, like one of the respondents there said, everyone will want to, be comfortable and confident to go out, to travel without, according to her, fear of the unknown. I mean, that should be it. But there's much more to achieving that relative peace in our country. We have gathered top personalities from the diverse security architecture security agencies. They are here right in the studio. Let me begin the introductions with the Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman. He's a familiar face, former Army spokesperson, and now consultant to the Nigerian Army Resource Center here in Abuja. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Thank
you for joining us.
Wish you the same, and thank you very much for having me on the program. Happy New Year to you all.
Also here with us in the studio is Group Captain Sadiq Gabashehu, retired, and he is a security and defense consultant and also expert in Safe School Declaration. Thank you for finding time to join us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
All right. Now, from our Just Studio is Brigadier General John Temlong, First Commander, Multinational Joint Task Force, and former President of Alumni Association of National Defense College and Security Consultant. Hi, good morning, Happy New Year, and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Happy New Year, Kiran. Happy New Year, Nigerians. Good morning, my colleagues in the studio, and good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, gentlemen, once again, we're glad to have you here with us, and you are experienced men when it comes to security in Nigeria, having served at various capacities in the military. Of course, we have discussed topics related to this on a number of occasions where you were guests on this platform. And so we may like to begin by doing an assessment or evaluation of what transpired last year with respect to security challenges in Nigeria, which is multifaceted as we know it. In fact, we're learning new words. We started learning new words some years ago, like we used to know militants, but we didn't know about banditry. That one came on board. Kidnapping was at a low ebb then in the south of Nigeria, but today it's been exacerbated. I mean, it's all over the place. So let's begin with Brigadier Sani Kokashika, former army spokesperson. What's your evaluation of last year? What happened in the security sector?
I think it was interesting and challenging in the sense that, if you recall, in fact, the year started precariously in the sense that you remember the train attack and so on and so forth. And towards the end of the year, we have had instances of travel advisory that you wake up, you will even think that you will wake up tomorrow morning, there won't be Nigeria given the security challenges. But by the grace of God and concerted effort of the security forces, were able to mitigate those challenges, and we have to give kudos to the government and the security forces for rising up to the occasions. Take, for instance, initially we have had repelling and what have you. Now with renewed operations like Forest Sanity and all the rest, we have had instances where they have been taking the battle, to the very den of the criminal elements. And if you look at the northeast, we have what is now referred to as a greater peace as compared to what was obtainable. And one of the aspects is looking at the number of almost 83,000 Boko Haram terrorists that voluntarily surrendered, and this is unprecedented. It's something that has never happened, anywhere in the country. And most importantly, again, we realize the importance of whole society approach to the extent that, remember the 23 abducted, those train attack abductees were released simply because of involvement of some key stakeholders in the Nigerian project that were able to mitigate issue that has been lingering for over 6 months. So it's a mixture of such, but the good thing about it is that there is great improvement and stabilization. And of course, I can understand why you are predicating the theme of this today's discussion to expectations, because the security forces have risen to that occasion. But of course, it is not just something that happened overnight. There was this strategic directives on the part of the government, especially, the president, the number of times the Security Council has sat. And beyond that, the injection of more equipment. Take, for instance, and I believe Group Captain Shehu will be a witness, the administration has bought nothing less than 38 fighter aircraft for the Nigerian Air Force, and I believe from now to first quarter, end of this first quarter of this year, we might have about 40 more aircrafts. And the thing is, on and on, when you look at the Army and the Navy. Take, for instance, now the Navy is even being repositioned to have a blue economy in Nigeria. And of course, that the Gulf of Guinea, the security challenges are being mitigated due to concerted efforts, and the involvement of other partners, and including, other international communities too. And the involvement of Nigerian society in the dealing with security challenges. They were involved simply because they were equally involved by the security agencies. So it's a culmination of so many things that hence we have reached this far. There is high expectation of not only sustaining it but to improve on it.
Okay. Let's put you on hold, Brigadier General Kokashika, for the moment, and just again to recollect your adjectives. You started by saying it was an interesting but also challenging year, and you also used the word precarious. And indeed, the travel advisory hit everyone, but again, we were able to, deflate that. And in fact, how we did it, you're just telling us. The civilians don't know, but glory to God for that. And again, you also said we were able to make important improvement and then stabilize, security architecture. Let me bring in General Tem Long, who was first commander multinational joint task force from our Jos studio. You probably would be looking at insecurity from a global phenomenon perspective, and rightly so if we consider events happening in other parts of the country. But insecurity evolved so far, so much that I'm wondering what you feel or what you felt last year when, for instance, we had the travel advisory, the train attack on the Abuja Kaduna bound train, and of course other events that took place. What's your evaluation of 2022 with regards to security?
Thank you very much, Claire. I think 2022 was a mixed bag of both the low and the high. The low, when we had the terrible, unfortunate situation with the train attacks, as you said, where innocent travelers were traveling from Abuja to Kaduna, and they were kidnapped, attacked, some were killed. Heart goes out to those who lost their loved ones. And then the travel advisory on the kidnappings that were going around the country, even here in Jos, North Central, sporadic attacks here and there. I think that those were some of the lows, but I think the highs was that, and I think we want to give kudos to the NTA and other media houses too, because you have brought our security to the front burner, and the discussions that have been going on has been in such a way that has helped Nigerians be able to know that they have a role to play in the all of society approach towards security. And if you see the successes that were recorded sometimes last year, it's as a result of credible intelligence that were coming in from the Nigerian people to the security forces. The attacks that were done and on the leaders, the various arrests that were done, and then the accurate attacks that were done when the leaders were holding meetings in various safe houses of theirs, goes to show that Nigerians were now coming up and volunteering information to the security forces. So I think, and I said here before, that Nigerians must take back the space from the criminals. If we don't take back the space from the criminals, they will continue to dictate the narrative to us. So going forward, what you see last year was that there were lows, but there were some very good successes that were recorded, which has improved the situation a lot. I know politicians are trying to use it for their political gains, but in national security, you don't bring in politics into it. We will ask them to work towards improving the situation with the security sectors, including the population, because we need to build the capacity of our Nigerians more and more, to be able to come up with credible intelligence towards helping the security forces to move forward and smoke out these criminals. They live with us, we know them, people just don't talk to them, and unfortunately in Nigeria too, is that we worship money. We don't even care the source of money, how people get money. I listened to your newspaper review where you are talking of people moving with convoy of 10, 15 vehicles when they are not even in government. Even if in government, do you need those number of vehicles? Don't we see what is happening abroad? Why are we attracting so much attention to ourselves? How do you sustain all those vehicles that you are moving in your convoy? How do you sustain the thugs that move along with you? I mean, we create all this unfavorable situation. At the end of the day, we start blaming government, we start blaming security forces. I think we must take responsibility for our security. We must take responsibility for our conduct, and we must change the narrative for good. and make sure that we take back the space from criminals. And going forward, Nigerians need to know that for us to have a secure and a safe country, the responsibility rests squarely with everybody. It is an all-of-society approach, and in fact, we owe more because the security forces and the armed forces are just there to be able to check on the criminals, but to bring up the society and bring up children in a way that they respect the laws and obey the laws is the responsibility of parents, the responsibility of teachers, the responsibility of elders, the responsibility of the whole of society to make sure that we stem the criminal tide within our society, change our value system, change the way we see Nigeria, and stop building sub-nationalities and sub-clans and build a nation. There are some religious leaders who even think that they are above the law or above the country. And I think it's dangerous for the country. You cannot sit down and say that, I just listened to a clip where somebody was saying that we shouldn't vote people who are saying they're going to buy more arms to bring peace to the country, and that we should that they were fighting their own soldiers. I think that's wrong. We have one country. You cannot even do that in Saudi Arabia or in Qatar or any of the UAE. And so we must have people, no matter who you are not above the country, above the laws. You must have a country first before you start practicing your religion. So.
All right, General Temlong, we appreciate your contribution. In fact, you have a little background, for discussion, making progress in this program. Now, Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, I want to take a few things that he said. He said, we live with them, we know them. It means that there's a possibility of the society playing a key role, as a matter of fact, a more strategic role in intelligence, gathering and reporting. Yes. From what the two speakers, their speakers said, it did appear that a great deal of improvement, were recorded during the 2022 with respect to how government tackled the menace of insecurity in Nigeria. But again, you keep hearing fresh attacks in Zamfara, in other parts of southeast of Nigeria, even the southwest. There are still not necessarily pockets, but there are kidnappings going on. I thought a few days ago, several people, in fact, tens of people were kidnapped somewhere in Zamfara. And there were also frontal attacks, between the bandits and, of course, security agencies or perhaps vigilante groups, as the case may be. So, what is your own assessment of what happened last year? Because we are doing this to enable us discuss the expectations of Nigerians based on the achievements recorded by the government in the past year. So how do we look at it, especially with respect to the involvement of the Air Force in the entire scenario that first brought us to the level of saying, look, that government has done well so far?
Thank you very much. I join my colleagues in agreeing that 2022 is a checkered report card. What I was saying, overall, there's definitely an improvement in terms of the performance of the armed forces, in terms of even the government effort to equip the armed forces and ensure that they have what is required for them to do the job. Having said that, when discussing Nigerian security, I normally look at it. We started with the term multifaceted. The security is multifaceted because you could divide it into 3 or 4 areas. First, there is the well-known and the public catching Northeast because it is an insurgency, it is terrorism. Definitely, when you look at the Northeast, for the past even 2-3 years, when you look at the figures, is the number of attacks that is carried out by the terrorists? Is the number of civilians or military men that are killed? Is it number of areas that are held by these Boko Haram insurgents or ISWAP, as the case may be? There are definitely a great improvement. We do not hear that. We do not hear our soldiers being running away from these people or them taking places and hosting their flags. So definitely when you look at the Northeast, there's a tremendous improvement of keeping the terrorists quiet, including the massive surrenders we are recording. Even though I was still cautioned that insurgents, they have a way of being resilient, so there shouldn't be complacency in that case. Just probably. Then when you move to the south, northwest, unfortunately, there's an interesting phenomenon that is coming. For the past, I can say 6-7 years, when we talk of insecurity about Nigeria anywhere, what you talk is the northeast, high numbers. But surreptitiously, the killings of people has even in the northwest has overtaken the figures in the northeast. When you look at the figures for 2021, you look at the figures of 2022 that just ended, you will see that the northwest, comprising Kaduna, Zamfara, and then their Niger state is not in northwest. But when you look at the figures coming from the northwest, coming from the northwest alone, they overtake the figures that are coming from the northeast. So what does that tell us? This is why I said it is a variegated report card. We have tremendous improvement in the northeast. However, in the northwest, even within this week, I think even entering into this year, we have people being kidnapped. We have bandits issuing ultimatum to villagers, imposing taxes on them. Even in Niger State. So these are the states actually that are really, when you look at the lady you put in your clip at the beginning, she talked of banditry. Now, so while the Boko Haram sortie is about killing people and catching land, you see the threat we are having in the northwest is there is killing, but mostly it's about marauding people, rendering people homeless, stopping them from farming. That area, unfortunately, despite some spectacular successes by air attacks, because we've had, it's not easy, or it is not often that you have a group of bandits assembled in hundreds and you hit them. It's a lucky strike. But fortunately, during the year, we had such strikes and it has built numbers. But the truth is that these people are still marauding. These people are still holding, some areas captive, some villages captives. We have, so that is an area. Then when you go to the southeast, states like Imo and Anambra, these are again the sore points. Almost, with due respect, almost all states have varying. Enugu is joining, but security. But Enugu is joining up. Yes. Then this is another area where we are seeing flashes of insecurity, which more work has to be done. Then when you move to the North Central, you have Plateau, you have Benue. Also, those areas, these are the areas that when you check, you will see red in those areas. That is to say, the issue there is still unresolved. So this is what I said. It is a variegated, But as we are transiting from one government to another, like we continue to say, governance is a continuum. I want whatever incoming government is coming to know that security is work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We will get to that progress, because that's what we want. We want to make progress in whatever improvement and stability that we have recorded. Brigadier General Kukasheka, my question is to you. You've listened to the variegated and the delineation of the context, the different contexts of insecurity we've had, from the northeast to the northwest to the north central and to different parts of the country. As we speak, the tension in the southeast is palpable. Kian and I, the newspaper reviewer, just talked about the killings within 24 hours and all that. But all this happening despite the number of instruments that we have, the number of security agencies that we have, providing intelligence, providing information. Do you think that we are relying more on our much more on conventional methods?
Well, if we are going to talk about Southeast specifically, or Nigeria in totality, in my earlier comment, and of course the various other speakers have made mention of the fact that there is a need for a whole society approach, and it was in realization of that we have had the semblance of the improved security that we had towards the end of last year. Now, I know there are two key important issues slated for this year. One is the general election in February and March. Then, of course, we will have the census later. Now, you cannot have such very important things, that strengthen our democracy without enabling security environment that will guarantee free and fair and credible election. Now, what is being done? Constantly, INEC has been reassuring the level of preparedness. We've seen it in Owerri, and recently at the International Conference Center, the various stakeholders and all the rest. But now the attacks of not just the INEC facility and particularly in the southeast shows that the general election security will be a daunting task. More so, the criminal elements have perfected the use of improvised explosive devices. Not only that, the use of grenades. Just yesterday we have had a casualty figure of about 4 policemen that were killed that could have claimed the life of a former governor. So that tells you there is a missing link. So what is that missing link? We have to look at it critically. And possibly part of the missing link, I think, is the constructive engagement beyond the security agencies of other stakeholders. Who are those? Look at the population of this country. 65% of it are youth. To what extent are we employing them? Not necessarily in terms of job opportunity, but using them as part of security architecture. To what extent are you consulting them? Because bulk of Nigerian election is always associated with violence, times and terror. And who are those in most instances that perpetuate the act of violence? They are the youth. To what extent are we engaging them? Then one other critical component is our traditional rulers. To what extent, or leaders, to what extent are we involving them in these issues? So it is not just the security agencies, but there are other components of Nigerian society. And we have had instances beyond, the kinetic aspect of it that you have made reference to, the security, or had. What of the soft power, the non-kinetic aspect of it? To what extent are we engaging the Nigerian society in that respect? Because some of these conflicts have been with us. How are we mitigating them? Beyond the use of security, the coercive arms of the society. So that is one. And secondly, the issue now, again, is the level of the synergy among the various components that make up the security architecture of the country. It is a good thing that we have had, far-reaching decisions, in those references that made Owerri, now Abuja. But to what extent are we following through to those decisions that were taken during those engagement or conferences, affecting the various components of society? And you can still pick that up and replicate it in all the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, because virtually there is no part of the country that is not experiencing one security challenge or the other. And mark you, it is not the physical security that we are talking about in terms of maybe insecurity challenges, banditry and all the rest. There are other security challenges that are socio-economic oriented, because the definition of security now is all encompassing. And take, for instance, a person who is hungry, his security is for him to be, to have food. Well, others could think of, free from physical attacks and, freedom of movement and so on and so forth. So we look at the security as it is kind of holistically, to what extent, just recently, I think the National Bureau of Statistics have come out with disturbing statistics about those who are below poverty line in the country and what have you. So to what extent are we improving the economic well-being of the people to enable them to focus more, so that when you was talking about, collective responsibility, a role to play in the society, you become more focused and be able to have sense of belonging. The relationship is improved between you and the government.
Yeah, well, thank you. When you talk about engaging Nigerians, the synergy between the different agencies, security agencies in the military architecture, and what have you, I want to believe that what we're experiencing today in terms of insecurity could have been the mistakes of yesterday, which is why we're talking about how are you engaging the youths. If youths had been engaged some 20, 30 years ago, these things wouldn't have been occurring by now, because we have so many youths who are now diverted from what should be their daily occupation to something that first one could give them money. That is why recruitment into banditry or recruitment into terrorism is very easy, because they are willing tools already. They are all, parading the streets and have nothing doing, just like you pointed out. But the point is, now we are already experiencing insecurity, and they are diverse in nature. And one would have asked, our soldiers really trained to face a asymmetric kind of war that we're experiencing, based on even the banditry has even evolved and developed into some kind of terrorism, because they come in numbers, attack, burn down houses, take over your property and occupy. And that's why, in Niger State and other places in the north, you cannot farm unless you take permission from them. It still exists up to today. So, General Temlong, you preferred some solutions, in your earlier comment, which of course you talked about moral and other things. Now, Okacheka talked about the issue of engaging the youth. Now, what would be the next option as Nigerians expect to have a better, more secured, more peaceful 2023? Kinetic approach is almost 80%, but it doesn't seem to be completely yielding the dividend that we require. Should there be any other alternative in terms of inviting the persons who are concerned to come and sit down with government and talk?
Kirian, I see one of the problems that Nigerians do have is to understand that, yes, these are Nigerians who are criminally minded. They have some foreign collaborators. What you want is, like the president said, a secured and a peaceful, a safe Nigeria that is peaceful. So what do? Yes, are you going to say carry the 83,000 that surrendered and dump them into the prison yard for life? Can your prison facilities hold them? They are Nigerians. You want to bring them back. And so there is going to be a lot of problems which has to be looked at. Unfortunately, we looked at this at the Alumni Association of the National Defense College, and some of our findings are still there in the journals, which we made available to government, and they are still there. You can get them at the Defense College in the alumni office. We talked about transitional justice issues. Now, when people know those who took out arms against them, or those who brutalized them, and suddenly they are let loose within the society moving around, you find out that there will be problems in accepting them back into the fold. So going forward, you have to look at these transitional justice issues. You have to look at the situation where there is a role reversal, because there are those who are very well-to-do before in the society that were dealt with by these criminals. Their houses burnt, businesses looted, and everything. And suddenly, the criminals are back with more money than those who made their money legitimately in the society. And you know that they will now command more influence. So that's another problem. Now, going forward, like you said, we need to look at the way we run government in this country, the issue of governance. Governance has been a problem. Governance is not about serving. Governance is about self. Governance about aggrandizement and about power here in Nigeria, which is wrong. You see that a local government chairman sees himself as a state governor, not just as a staff governor, sees himself as over and above the people he's put in charge of. The councillor sees himself the same way, and so he starts surrounding himself with some aides who will now be pushing people left, right, center. The same thing with our legislators who are supposed to be representing us. They see themselves as executives. They move in highbrow vehicles, color tinted, with so many armed welding policemen and thugs pushing people off the streets. So it goes up and up. So there is a disconnect between those who are in government and those who they are governing. So we must close that gap and look at the situation. What is the actual problem? You see, we must build the capacity of even those who are supposed to take up responsibility from the local government right up to the national level. And that brings to mind the issue of a transition law, where you must have capacity building for those who will come in place. Secondly, capacity building is not supposed to be a one-way thing. Even the citizens themselves. Now, if you look at the Nigerian National Defense Policy, it is a people-centered defense policy where it talks about the role of the citizens in national defense. That document was signed off by the president in 2017, and I'm telling you that the implementation is almost zero, because it looks as if Nigerians see it as if it is a Ministry of Defense responsibility. But the responsibility of national defense cut across everybody: society, government organizations, the local governments, the states, traditional rulers, the school system, and the rest. And so if we had implemented that, getting the citizens involved, this 80% you're talking about kinetic, it would have gone the other way. It would have been 80% citizens and 20% kinetic. So the soft power component in asymmetric warfare is fantastic. Is what is supposed to go on. So I think going forward, we need to get our citizens right from the homes, change the values, teaching them what it is to be citizens of this country, not just citizens, but active citizens, good citizens, not passive and bad citizens. And then to be able to be checking themselves, because we did that in our primary schools in the 60s. When you do something wrong, they will say bad citizen. Or when you sit down and others are working, we will laugh at you and say passive citizen. And that will ginger you to start working up with the rest to call you a good citizen. And so we must recreate this, reinvent this situation, and set a narrative for the future where citizenship is seen as synonymous with protecting the common good. Nigeria, secured Nigeria, a peaceful Nigeria, a Nigeria that is progressive, a Nigeria that looks after the interests of everybody in Nigeria, a Nigeria that, a harm to one is a harm to all. So in that case, when you attack, an attack is going on in Zamfara, people in Plateau or in Imo State should start thinking that, should be showing empathy with people in Zamfara and say, look, this is an attack on all. Not that what is happening in Imo, then people in Lagos are saying that's an Igbo problem. And I think going forward again, the Igbo politicians must actually come together. There is a serious problem with Igbo leadership. And it is unfortunate that we are seeing all these things happening there. The leadership has allowed some miscreants to take over the space of leadership. And that's why even the leaders themselves are targets. And I think the stakes are always too high in those areas. They must tone down their rhetorics. They must accept that politics is a game. It's not a winner-take-all situation. One will win, one will not win. They cannot have two governors. They cannot have two legislators in the same constituency. I think they must actually come to the drawing board and see what these miscreants are doing. A lot of the elites, too, when I talk to them, you find that they are passive. It looks as if they have been cowed by these criminals to even just say, we accept what is going on. that now we are being marginalized. If you are even being marginalized, how do you get out? You negotiate. You work for power. You work for it. Not just sitting down and being on the sidelines and allowing the miscreants going on, and some are even following and giving them resources, sponsoring them. So I think we must be serious that if we want to take back the public space from the criminals, we must take the responsibility for what is going on in their area, and leaders must be able to say, no, this is enough, this is right, this is wrong. Call those to order and help the security agencies to make sure that we get them. So definitely going forward, the soft power component is important. We must build the capacity of those who govern us. We must build the capacity of the citizens themselves to be able to have a country that is called,
All right, General Tamlong, thank you. Thank you for the points that you really have raised, and I do hope that the findings of the Defense College will not be gathering dust. Hopefully, that finding probably would have contained some measures necessary to close the gap between the governed and the government, like you rightly pointed out in your remarks. But let me come back to the studio and take on a great Captain Sadiq on the variegated insecurity that you talked about, which is very, very important that we deal with it. And thank you for also giving us the statistics of the killings. Like you said, there seems to be some sort of quietness and stability in the Northeast. I remember, we were there in 2017 when this stability started gaining, grounds. But right now, I want you to share your thoughts with us. What do you think is or could have been responsible for this kind of stability that we are gaining, especially in the Northeast? Could it be the style of governance now that we're seeing? We see Governor Zulum, take on quite a number of projects, people-friendly projects. Most of the camps, IDP camps, have even been closed down. People are now going back to their communities. Is there a link between governance and what is happening in that part of the country in terms of insecurity?
Yes, thank you very much. In the Northeast, we must remember what we are having is insurgency. The insurgent, always uses the wage that is between, like General Long said, what is the wage that is between those governing and those that are governed. If people are unemployed, if people do not have social amenities, that gives a cleavage which a terrorist or a counter-insurgent can enter, because he can see. If we go back to the history of the first person that started the Boko Haram, that's Mohammed Yusuf, the late Mohammed Yusuf. He started with simple things. You look at the culture of the people, you identify what is important for them, and then if government is missing there, you enter. He started simply by giving youths money to buy motorcycles, by marrying and giving them money to marry, because again, culturally, like I said, in that area, in most northern area, when a man reaches a certain age and he's not married, it is seen as a failure. That is the reality of that place.
But they don't need money to marry in those places. They don't need to
marry. At least you have to carry some things to do something to the parents. And you go empty handed. So Mohammed Yusuf understood that, and also those people, he convinced them, what is government doing for you? Government is doing nothing for you. Burn your certificates. Me, I'm not government, but look at them doing. And they could see it on the ground. So definitely, when you say what is responsible for the success, yes, like we said, counter-insurgency, by definition, is the sum of all political, military, legal, economic actions all together combined. Even though we always have the tendency of looking at it purely from the military kinetic kind of thing. So when you have the government, the local government, and make their houses were rebuilt, then you have success. So definitely, when I am examining, successes or this thing, honest as a conscientious security expert, I just don't rely on the rating of Nigeria as a country bedeviled by it's the same thing that's in the Northwest. It's the same thing that you are relying on to do security for elections. it is just too much.
What could be the appropriate number? If
Good. Like a man going for a journey, you have to know where you are first before you know where you are going. Before you agree on the optimal size of the security that a country needs, you have to first identify how many do you have. With due respect, even as somebody in the military, again, this is a number that is very difficult to count. And I think that doesn't show we're a good planning country. With due respect, again, I have interviewed, a national assembly member who has sat in one of the security agencies or security services committee. Do you know the number of the personnel in that agency? He tells me he doesn't know. So before Madam, we come to what do we need? We have to agree how many officers and men in the military, in the DS agencies do we have. Then from there, looking at Nigeria's size, that is one of the factors you look at. Okay, the area size. Looking at what role Nigeria wants to play in international politics. We pride ourselves as the giant of Africa, the master of West Africa. So definitely we'll be supporting other countries in terms of peacekeeping. How many do you need? How many borders do you have? What is the size of your population? It is based on these figures that will finally agree. And this is a work that will be done by both by the executive and the legislature. The legislature is asking that. They are just passing budget. They don't ask what is the size, what is the equipment. It's when you have that size, then you know what can your economy support. Because there's always this debate that people call guns versus butter. The government cannot spend 100% of money on security. You have to do education.
Well, I'm very happy that this is coming from retired generals. You know, these people group captain, and generals as well. But you know what that points to me is the fact that over the years in the security architecture of this country, nobody bothered to equip the military. What I mean the military, perhaps the armed forces, let me say armed forces, including Army, Air Force, Navy. In fact, I don't even hear about amphibious attacks in Nigeria. I don't know whether we have the kind of sophisticated kind of ships where you can launch amphibious attack from the Pacific Ocean to the Sambisa forest with precision. I don't know whether we have that. Right. So that means that the gap we mentioned has always been there. Right. And which of course this government has tried to close up. We talked about 38 or more, aircraft, special aircraft, for attack, and which has not been there all these years. So what has happened, over the years that we are now trying to restock, and I mean, it means some level of planlessness in that area. That is what an ordinary Nigerian will feel. That if the military do not know that they should be equipped over the years, and now you have some kind of asymmetric war, and you are, looking for, what to fight it and what have you. That doesn't make good of a nation. We're going to take a short break now, but before then, I'd like Brigadier General Kokashega to look at this issue. You lived in Southeast before. You understand the terrain. And General Temlon mentioned something about the leadership of the southeast of Nigeria, which has degenerated to a point where you could say there's no political leadership in that part of the country, based on what has evolved over time. Unknown gunman attacks, individual, some personalities have been attacked. Dr. Akunyele was attacked. Some other individuals were attacked. Ifan Yoba was attacked. Hakim was just attacked. People were killed in Hamufu just 2 weeks ago. Over 50 people in Hamufu. Some people were kidnapped along that new road built by Sullivan, between Opi and Enugu. In fact, the former SSG was also kidnapped there, and so on and so forth. So, what would you be telling the leaders of Enugu, Anambra, Abia, and all of that? Because these are the current leaders of the region, and what is happening there right now is completely strange. This is not the place you used to know. So, in respect to what we are looking at, expectations of Nigerians in that area in 2023, what will you be telling to Southeast leaders?
Well, I think Tenlong has said something to that effect, and it is the overall leadership. It is not just the political class, but even though they have an authority, but I know that the town union, sometimes they are far more stronger than the political structure in the southeast. But be it as it may, really there is need for them to sit down together to critically evaluate all these things. And talking about that, just recently the commander of the state vigilante group of Ebonyi State, I think his wife was equally brutally murdered. Now, bulk of the security challenges were internal. Therefore, the solution to these problems are equally internal within. Initially, there was issue of self-denial of unknown gunmen, but it is a lie. They were known. They belong to a particular community, they belong to a particular house, they belong to a particular parents. They know them. So why should you allow a few group of individuals, they constituted minutest of the minute of the society, to create havoc? Now, with due respect, the most resilient, economically viable segment of the Nigerian society are the people from the southeast. Now they are moving towards consolidating and getting political power. Somebody is trying to thwart that. But my question, it is not just to the leadership, but to the youth, is that how could you, in your wildest imagination, somebody will bring petrol, will bring matches, and ask you to set your father's house alight, and you do so? It's counterproductive, because if you continue burning the south, is where will you go to? Therefore, the leadership have so much to do, in the sense that they have not been talking to themselves. They have been working at cross purpose and at variance. And I can understand the reason. Yes, people will feel that they are treating and what have you, but unless we remove money from our political landscape, which is impossible.
Chief security officers of the governors who have security.
I don't want barricaded. I don't want. If you are talking about that kind of thing, almost everybody in the Nigerian society, we are even barricading ourselves. That plan that we have. In some climates, you don't even fence houses in the state. I mean, in the camp, we've been there. So it's very important. Therefore, I will rather talk to the leadership of the Southeast, cutting across all the extraneous variables of religion, governance, economy, traditional, and even the youth themselves. Now, take for instance, a professor was killed. Why? Simply because he was dressed the way I am. He was tagged as a saboteur. Possibly he has not even been to Kaduna. So how could the killer be more evil than the professor? And how long will it take you to produce another professor? And I'm not even talking about the sanctity of human lives. So these are the issues. And unless they put their acts together, and it's possible to put their acts together to understand that they are facing an existential threat that will consume each and every one. And I know they can make a difference. I'm coming.
Yes,
that with Anambra State governor's election just recently, it shows that it's doable.
Let's pause it for a while. We need to take our commercials. So we'll return to you to...
We like money too much.
Let's go to our commercial break, please.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes, and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal, and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, arise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
The occasion gives cause for reflection and reminds us of the sacrifice made by our armed forces in preserving the unity of the country.
All ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal Launch. Send your donations to this account. Account name, Emblem Appeal Launch. Account number 393-200-7526. EcoBank Nigeria PLC.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, you don't old, make it do die, make everybody for rest, to ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles, and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
The Ministry of Police Affairs under my watch has been instrumental to strengthening Nigerian police force to tackle challenges in the internal security architecture of the nation. To effectively achieve its mandate to protect lives and property within Nigeria, the Nigerian police have deployed operational intelligence and the ICT-based apparatus to tackle and stem the tide of crime and criminality. Some of these efforts include the maximization of the Force Intelligence Bureau, Intelligence Response Team, and Special Tactical Squads, through utilization of emergency contacts via the NPF Rescue Me application for emergency response at the top of a button.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service. Let me journey to Jos and bring in General Temlong. I will return to General Kukashika. He was speaking before we went on break. We have heard, from all of you in the studio and of course from you, General Temlong, on what we as a people can also do in terms of bridging the gap between the governed and the governing, and also play our traditional roles to improve our security situation. But good Captain Sadiq talked about the gap between numbers and equipment, and it took me to my search engine to find out the budgets for the military. And this year, 2023, I think the budget for the military was over, I want to permit me to just get it out. Okay, for the police, for instance, it's 871 billion was budgeted. Of course, personnel and overhead, it's taking a chunk of that budget. And then I'm trying to get that for the military now. The military was about 1.55, 1 point something trillion, if I'm not mistaken. More than that. Sorry? You know. Now, the bulk of the budgets, both for the military and the police, is expended on personnel and overhead. What do we do with the budget for capital? You know, is it mainly on hardware? What exactly are we supposed to be doing with the budget for the capital expenditure?
Well, thank you, Claire. Before I answer your question, let's look at the numbers like you rightly pointed out. If we take the numbers properly, the police leadership must come clean and tell the Nigerian government and the Nigerian people the number of policemen they need on the streets to adequately police the country. There is a benchmark by the UN, which we might not be able to make by now. And then they should be able to tell them what sort of equipment they need to have a minimum of 5 minutes response time, at least in the cities, and 10 minutes response time in the rural areas. That will come together to the citizens, to the government, and to the National Assembly, the executive and the National Assembly. The police must actually push itself too of the criminals within it so as credibility will come up. And once you have that credibility, and then people are sure, fundings will come both from the government and the citizens, I assure you. There is a police security trust fund now which they have. If you look at what TED Fund is doing in terms of educational sector, the fact theirs will be even more by sort of intervention. It is these interventions that are supposed to take care of the equipment that you're not talking about. It's not just what the paltry ones that comes from the budget. Now, when you have a secure and a peaceful country, businesses will boom. Government will get more money from taxes. Citizens will get employed. And there will be general peace. So there will be more money for the government to carry out activities for the citizens. So it is a two-way thing. If you have insecurity, government will continue to have its revenues dwindling. So if you want in more money, you must give Peter money, and then Pan will get more money too. So I think we need to look at those numbers. We are looking at critically sometimes, and what is happening now is that to train an average policeman, just like my colleague was saying, that if you kill a professor now, you will not get a professor within the next 5-10 years. Now, to get those numbers, you need to train them. But luckily, technology has come into, which is a force multiplier. So what an aircraft or what a drone can do in terms of patrolling or raking, it will take about how many boots on the ground to do that. So we are now augmenting the numbers with technology. So that gives you a force multiplier. So both, in fact, all the security sectors, the armed forces, the police, the DSS, and the rest must look at technology as a force multiplier. But most importantly, you still need boots on the ground, because the traditional police beats that happens in, if you go to UK, you see the London policeman in his beats. And it was so in this country too. Honestly, it's so unfortunate in this country that you drive. I drove this morning to office. There was no single security personnel that has to this studio I saw on the road. And it's a common feature in all of these things. So you see people committing crimes, street crimes are being committed everywhere, and nobody is there. People take the laws into their hands. They need to
All right, General Temlong, we are actually running out of time. We want to see how we can share the little time we have between you guests before we round off this edition of the program. Now, the issue of the benchmark you mentioned is very, very important here because I don't believe we should be talking about how many policemen we need, because we know we are under-policed. We know approximately we are about 200 million or thereabout. We know what the UN benchmark is. So in the army, so in the navy and air force. So it's not an issue for me to be discussing or something. I mean, it's something that we should know systematically. The system should know that, and we should adhere to it. Now, I just wonder, please, gentlemen, because you're professionals, why can't we produce our own guns? If I could see what happened in Indonesia, they have a military industry. They took us there. We went with the former Minister of Science and Technology. They took us to the military factory. They were not, when you say AK-47, they have AK-49. They have all manner of AKs, because of the way they reconstructed theirs. Even right inside their barracks there, they manufacture everything, even armored cars. I met a retired general who said that he was at Sandhurst with Obasanjo those days in their military career, during their military career, that if we don't have something like this in Nigeria, then we will be surprised. We were there. They showed us everywhere. They manufacture guns, shotguns, young guns, AK-47s, and what have you. So I'm just wondering whether we can't get to that. But what I've seen with Nigerian military engineers, they're very good. They can do anything if given the opportunity. I've seen what I've done so far. Likewise, in the Air Force and all that, having covered science and technology, they are very good at. So why can't we, even as a nation, begin to think in that direction? Is it not a possibility?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, as much as you are agitated, I'm equally agitated, sometimes to the extent of frustration. Why? Because what you are saying, if I make reference to Bangladesh, for instance, I think that country became independent in the 70s. But I can rest assured you that the army itself has its own aviation, and most of the aircrafts were manufactured within that country. And remember, we still have grade of Nigerians who paid the supreme price during the Second World War in that country, bringing peace and stability to the world. So it's such a long, we have come a long way in this country. So it is not about thinking, but it's about doing. But now the issue is, how much have you been expanding or allocating for research and development? You are making reference to, yes, but you grew up in you know Proda.
Exactly.
Why is it today? So basically, we are paying lip services to things that are, components that will take us to the developed world, and we have the capacity.
Exactly.
It is not just the engineers themselves; they are individuals that are gifted.
Mm-hmm.
We have policies that are not being implemented, and in fact, Jonathan was making reference to researches that gathered dust by ANDEX and, of course, the National Defense College. Look at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies that was established way back 1979 for over 40-something years. Has been looking at policy issues. Every year there is one thematic issue. I think 2 years ago, getting things done in my own course, it was interrogating the internal security framework and community policing in this country. Everything that has to do with internal security, we made far-reaching recommendation and even implementation strategy. All movement, all motion, no movement. And that is exactly what is affecting the issue of those things, military industrial complex you are talking about. And unless we go back to the basis, we will still have problems. Take, for instance, we kept on talking about security challenges. Each one of them emanated from a locality. The local government system is not working. So
What's up your thoughts, man?
These are the issues, and we have to go back to the basis and address these issues. We have the capacity, we have the potential.
I like
telling ourselves the truth and doing the right thing.
We have the capacity. The world is evolving. I think it was the Russian president that says that whoever rules in the field of artificial intelligence will rule the world. do we still have to flood the roads and streets with, human policemen? I mean, do we have enough budget?
CCTV.
Do we have enough budget to be able to delve into the area of artificial intelligence? Great Captain Saeed.
Thank you very much. Like General Kukashik has said, the amount, you see, one thing with security, it is an international issue. So even if a country doesn't know what to do, it can look at what other countries are doing. And when you are looking at other countries, you don't punch above your weight. You look at countries that have, similar economic index. I'm not saying Nigeria must follow America, but there are other countries mentioning Bangladesh. He's once mentioning Pakistan. Look at those countries, they are in the same, I can say, boxing weight with them. You can look at what they are doing. Look at what they are spending on R&D. We are spending very little, very, very far little on R&D. And even the little we are spending, what happens? Instead of us to pull our resources together and have one research institution that all the resources, all the agencies will open. In fact, when you look at national budget, every ministry, every agency has a budget for R&D, which is just for eating. Just for eating, they will R&D. Now, if you put all those resources together, despite the fact that it's small as part of the budget, and you concentrate it in one area. To be honest with you, I am not a proponent of Nigerian Army doing research and development differently, Nigerian Air Force doing research and development differently, Navy doing differently, police differently, because we are filtering away the resources. And in fact, even when we do the resources, we operate in silos. We do not share how far I have gone. I'll give you the example of UAVs. We are talking frankly here. We are talking of UAVs. UAVs have been talking of UAVs. But now if you check, how many agencies, how many security agencies are into UAVs? NSA, police are doing their own, Army are doing their own, Air Force are doing their own, and where have we gone? This one will go and consult Turkey. This one will go and consult Pakistan. This one will go and consult China. This is not how to grow your own everything. The whole of the US Armed Forces, with multi-billion naira budget, they only have one agency that does military research and agency. That one agency. So honest, like I said, you ask for budget. There are good guidance on budget. When the country is at peace, even the World Bank, even the IMF, because first they are about economic development, but they agree that there is no economic development without security. So they give countries guide. For a country that is at peace, try and spend from 0.5% to 1% of your budget every year on your security. Because security, like I said, is a knife which you must keep sharp. You never know when you are going to need it. What is happening with us now?
I think before we conclude, there are over 150 research and development institutes in this country. In agri, science and technology put together, and agencies and parasitas of some ministries, as you pointed out. Yes. Ministry of Health is agency. They also have agencies.
I'm sorry.
All of them have agencies on R&D.
And they have R&D budget.
Exactly. And what is happening?
Sorry, we have to end this conversation, Kieran. Let me appreciate Group Captain Sadiq Garbashi, who retired Security and Defense Consultant and expert in Safe School Declaration. Thank you very much. I must say I have enjoyed our conversation. Let me also thank Brigadier General John Temlong, First Commander, Multinational Joint Task Force, former President of Alumni Association of National Defense College, and a security consultant. It's always a pleasure to have you speak on security matters as it affects this country. And of course, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, former Army spokesperson, consultant to the Nigerian Resource Center, and my very good friend. Thank you very much, sir.
So much a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, that's body of late Brazilian football legend Pelé to be laid to rest today in a private family funeral, and Novak Djokovic makes a return to Australia for the first time since his now overturned visa ban owing to COVID vaccine issues.
Thousands of mourners have gathered to pay their respects to Brazil legend Pelé, who is lying in state at the ground of his former club Santos. Pelé's coffin was placed in the center of the pitch at the Urbano Caldeira Stadium in Sao Paulo, with fans lining the streets to get inside the ground. The three-time World Cup winner died at the age of 82 on 29th December. There will be a procession through the streets of Santos to a private family burial on Tuesday. Brazil's government declared 3 days of national mourning after Pelé's death. Pelé, arguably the world's greatest ever player, had been undergoing treatment for colon cancer since 2021. We're going to ask every country in the world to name one of their stadiums with the name of Pelé, said FIFA President Gianni Infantino, who attended the memorial. In tennis, Novak Djokovic received a positive welcome back to Australia as he made a rare doubles appearance at the Adelaide International. The Serb was deported prior to the 2022 Australian Open because of his COVID-19 vaccination status. Djokovic's 3-year visa ban was overturned in November, allowing him to enter the country. He and Canada's Vaxes Pospisil were beating 4-6, 6-3, 10-5 by Tomislav Brkic and Gonzalo Escobar on his return.
Brkic and Escobar are the party poopers here in Adelaide. Packed crowd on court one, but the majority of them are disappointed because Novak Djokovic and Vasek Pospisil are beaten.
Okay, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today, Tuesday. And also to remind you, the campaign against rape and rapists is still on. Do join us, and I leave you with the parting words. Be good Nigerians. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurrazak. Bye-bye.
And I'm Kieran. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day.
NTA Tuesday Live, analytical, in-depth, educative, and interactive on national issues, accommodating all sides of opinion.
We as a people have understood that we have to fight corruption before it bites us back.
Poverty has a financial index, so it should be fought also with a financial weapon. Give it to the social investments program. It has been a very courageous battle.
Tuesday Live, every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Join us.
This is the network service of the NTA.
The year 2022 came with its lows and highs for sports in Nigeria. But that's all in the past now. It's a new year, and we can talk about building on the successes recorded and, of course,